Welcome to The Explainer. All right, today we're diving into a book that completely flips the script on seduction. Forget romance, think more like a strategic game of power. Yeah, it's treated as a full-blown art form, and we're about to look at its rule book.
So right off the bat, the author hits us with this really provocative idea. People want to be led astray. They actually yearn to be seduced. And that right there changes everything. We're not talking about some simple dating guide. No, this is about a psychological game. And the interesting part is, the players are often totally willing participants. Sometimes they're even eager.
Okay, so if it isn't really about love, then what's it all about? Well, according to this text, it all comes down to one thing: a game of power, a very strategic art form.
I love this definition. The book literally calls seduction an art of war for delicate times. Think about that. It's framing it as a game where you're armed with these weapons of persuasion, tools designed to slowly and artfully lower someone's resistance, often without them even noticing it's happening.
And here's a really crucial point. This has nothing to do with force or being aggressive. It's all about adopting this playful philosophy. This mindset is the thing that can transform, that social awkwardness we all feel into something that's actually graceful and feels completely natural.
So how does this all work? Well, the entire art form is actually broken down into just two fundamental elements. Super simple, right? It's all about this dual focus, and you absolutely need both. On one side, you've got know thyself. You have to understand what makes you charismatic, what's alluring about you. But, and this is a big but, if you only focus on yourself, you just come off as self-absorbed. Then, on the other side, there's know your target. But if you only focus on them without that self-awareness, well, the book warns you'll seem like a clumsy, obvious manipulator. Real mastery, it's all in the balance.
All right, let's get into the nitty-gritty. We're going to look at the structure of the book itself, which is laid out like a super clear playbook for anyone who wants to learn this art.
So, this playbook is split right down the middle into two halves. Part 1 is all about discovering your seductive character, and Part 2, that's about learning the seductive process, the actual moves in the game. You need the first part to succeed at the second. They build on each other to create the complete artist.
So let's talk about that first part of the playbook. It's all about defining just nine, core seductive archetypes.
And here they are. The core idea is that before you can even think about making a move, you have to understand your own natural strengths. Are you a charmer, a rake, a siren? The book argues you've got to find your archetype first. And, just as important, it also defines the anti-seducer, so you know exactly what not to do, the traits you need to avoid at all costs.
Okay, so once you've figured out your character type, the playbook's second half comes into play. And this is where we get the 24 specific maneuvers and strategies of the seductive process.
And these are the real tactics. Each one of these maneuvers is designed for a very specific purpose. Maybe you want to create a spell and build that initial fascination, or maybe you need to break down someone's resistance and skepticism. They're designed to give your seduction momentum and ultimately guide your target toward what the book calls a willing surrender. This is really where the art starts to feel like a science.
So, you might be wondering, where did all these powerful and frankly timeless ideas come from? Well, they weren't just pulled out of thin air. The foundation for all of this isn't just theory, it's straight up history. The entire framework is built on the writings, the diaries, the letters, and the biographies of the most successful seducers the world has ever known.
And we're talking about legendary figures here. The book pulls its lessons directly from the lives of people like Casanova, Cleopatra, even John F. Kennedy and Marilyn Monroe. So these aren't just abstract theories. They're actual strategies that have been proven time and again by the masters of history.
And it doesn't just stop with real life. The book also dives deep into classic literature, analyzing everything from Kierkegaard's The Seducer's Diary to the incredibly complex courtships in The Tale of Genji. It really shows you how closely intertwined fiction and reality are when it comes to the art of seduction.
So what's the end game here? What happens when you've mastered both your character and the process? Where does that lead?
Well, according to the preface, the ultimate goal isn't just to influence someone, it's to become a consummate seducer, which means achieving this profound level of empathy. It's about seeing the world completely through their eyes, understanding their perspective so deeply that you can almost anticipate their desires and thoughts before they do.
To kind of capture this mindset, the author points to this quote from the philosopher Diderot. "I give my mind the liberty to follow the first wise or foolish idea that presents itself." It's about allowing yourself to be lured by stories and ideas, to have a mind that's open, fluid, and receptive, which is the exact state you want to inspire in others.
And this brings us to the final promise made in the introduction, that studying this art form will fundamentally change you. It's not just a box of tricks to use on other people, it's a completely new lens for viewing all human interaction, and even your own internal thought processes.
So, in the end, the preface leaves us right here with this incredibly powerful question. Seduction is presented as this potent tool for influence, which forces us to think about its ethical boundaries. It makes you ask yourself, where does the art of persuasion stop, and where does dangerous manipulation begin? Something to think about, for sure.